Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of the Conversation Capital. Guess who's on camera? Guess who's on camera? Abonga's on camera. Hi.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
The voice of reason.
In the flesh.
In the flesh.
Is that the right expression?
I don't know.
Flesh.
Yes,
In the flesh.
Flesh.
Yeah, the
No,
flesh.
Yes.
Given.
Yes.
What's up?
I'm good.
I should start calling you Baba Ga Awa. But Pascal tell la chumiak. Le Mama Ga Asa.
People must know the name. People must know who to Google.
You know. Oh, Given Masilela. Thank you.
Yes.
So, how are you guys doing?
I'm good.
It's the Get Ready With Me episode. If you guys aren't familiar, we go through comments and questions and we just discuss
It's
as a
really
team.
chatty.
Yeah, it's very chatty. It's an internal chatty-watty. And remember, if you want a specific comment addressed, you need to hashtag Get Ready With Me. So whichever episode you do that on, then we'll make sure that we address it during one of these sessions. Yeah.
Reflections.
Reflections. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I don't mind. My reflection is from a quote. I found I came across a video on Instagram. Actually, I posted it on a lot of my social media, and it's a lady who's on Oprah's show. And then the quote is from Theodore Roosevelt, who said, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives violently, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best in the end of the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." Yeah,
Definitely
that lady.
send that to me so I can put it on screen.
Yeah, that lady spoke about how this quote changed her life, and I think
So
by
you're
her
referring to an
changing
interview
it-
with Brene Brown and
Oprah,
Oprah, yeah.
and how she by sharing that quote, she may have just changed my life, because it just speaks about going, whether you achieve, you don't achieve, you've done something.
To be honest,
And there's a lesson even in the defeat.
yes.
Yeah.
For me, that quote helps me a lot with some of the negative comments. That it's not the critic that counts. You're in the ring. You know, because it's very easy for people to point fingers at people that are talking, people that are doing the podcast, and to disagree with you, and to, not that you can't disagree, but people that are harmful in their commentary. And it reminds me that you're not in the ring. You won't even step into the ring. I'm in the ring, and I'm trying to comment, and I'm trying to find solutions. You know, so I'm in the ring, you know. And so, yeah, I love that quote. It helps me deal with a lot of negativity, like, because often negativity comes from people that aren't willing to step into it. Because they say create more than you criticize, create more than you compare, this is now Nika J. I've forgotten the third one. It's more than you criticize, more than you compare. But once you're creating, you know that it's not that easy to point fingers. You understand the limitations of those people that are creating, because you're creating, you're putting something out into the world.
Yes.
And so it just goes with being in the fight, actually living life, doing, learning from the failing. So a fellow fighter sees you and recognizes you're a fighter. You know, unlike somebody who's not in the fight. They're the critic outside. It's very easy to point fingers when you're not doing anything.
Yeah. And for me, why it stood out, it is that voice inside that you need to be proud of, and not proud of, but the voice you need to use when you are hearing criticism, and just remind yourself that I'm in the ring.
fight.
It's okay.
I
will get these knocks, I will get these, but I'm in the ring, and you should be proud of yourself in terms of, I'm doing this thing.
Yes.
You know, in the moment of the criticism or whatever someone is saying, there's just this little voice that's going to say, you are much better because you're in that ring.
The ring.
Yeah.
You're in the ring. You're doing a fight. Yeah, absolutely. That was a dope reflection.
Even just that it's we use it so much now, we abuse it a lot. But it's that phrase, a car doesn't bark at a dog doesn't bark at a car that's not moving. Yeah. So even that, you get the criticisms and stuff, but it's because you're doing something. I think avoiding things because you're scared of criticism will stifle you.
Yes, it will keep you a still car.
Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely. That's a dope reflection.
Your reflection?
My reflection, I've got two. One is a bit superficial. It's around the fashion industry. So I just realized in Africa, our options are limited. And this thing, remang utina Hong Kong and whatever, we just don't know to the depth of which Hong Kongs go. There's a scene in The Devil Wears Prada where the lady laughs. And I think I've repeated this before, maybe off camera.
Okay.
But she laughs when it looks like they're matching two turquoise belts. She's like... And then Miranda calls it, not Miranda, Miranda Priestley, yes. Miranda Priestley calls out like, oh, you think you're better. But that jersey you're wearing that you think you just picked out from a pile of stuff was chosen from you from this room of people. Like, we choose the things you wear. Even if it's down at whatever generic store you think you're shopping from and you think you're so exempt from the fashion industry, nobody's exempt. And I never really understood that, I think especially being in Africa, because we aren't really exposed to as many designers. Right, so we'll have like the random, what do they call it, diamond walk with like Gucci, Louis Vuitton. But like your general big designers, like we were talking about now, Elie Saab and whatever brand you want to think of. Kate Spade, whatever, things that aren't in SA,
Kanye West.
Things that aren't in SA that and you wouldn't really know and have exposure to these people. So you end up buying from like your generic store. I don't want to mention any stores, but anything that when you walk into the mall, what you would consider whatever store. Only to find that those are probably knockoffs of these designers. So there's this other pair of shoes that I bought. Very cute. I bought two colors. They were the way they were so cute. I bought a blue one and a yellow one, and they're platforms. And I remember when I posted, everybody's like, oh, these are such cute shoes. I remember I even sold. Like, that's how much people liked them. I ended up buying and selling them. And then I went to Dubai last year. And only to find that they were knockoffs of Stella McCartney. I didn't know I was wearing knockoffs. And I've got this thing like, oh, I don't wear knockoffs. But realizing because I'm not exposed, being in Africa, such limited options, because I'm not exposed to what's out there, you end up thinking, down to in my house, you guys would know, when you walk in, I can't afford like an international luxury brand fragrance, but I do a local brand luxury fragrance for my house. I'm not going to say the name again. But I walk into this fancy hotel in China and it smells like my house. So I'm like, no, there's no way this brand has gotten, because I know it's a South African designer that does the brand that I use in the house. So then I'm like, and I hunt for it. I even go to the bottom. I need to find the diffuser or something. I find it. And well, there were several, but specifically in the bathroom, there was this. And I realized that it's a knockoff of a luxury brand called Le Labo, which is like a luxury fragrance brand, an international one. And I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
I literally was like, oh my gosh, we're not exposed in Africa. Like, we've got this, esteem, or mang mang apara feiki. Really, those people in those rooms decide everything else. Every other generic thing you're finding on the market is a knockoff of those things. Do you get what I'm saying? If you're not buying OG, like, you'll be surprised how many knockoffs there are. It's because we don't have Stella McCartney. It's because we don't have Kate Spade. It's because we don't have those brands that we actually don't know.
That this is actually a knockoff.
I hear you know what I'm saying? There was this white, like, it wasn't a tennis sneaker, but there was a sneaker that was popular with the black little oval thing at the heel.
Yes.
There were so many of them in every like generic store, whether, whatever store in the mall, they were all over. And like to find that like original designers, what's that one the Karl Lagerfeld? Do you get what I'm saying? Like, and you're just like, oh my gosh.
But a lot of our, I mean, like you're saying, the generic clothes we get, they are from the trends.
Yeah.
Financially, all these stores are doing these, copying like a popular brand that starts with a G. Like they have these, monogram. Are they called monogram?
Yes,
monogram.
Yes.
Everything's just written A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, and in the colors of that particular brand. So yes, absolutely. And
so if you don't have exposure, you'll just think, or think you're like, I don't see anybody that doesn't like, wear the clear-cut knockoff.
It took a while for me to get what you're saying.
You get what I'm saying? Like, if you're in Africa, and you're probably wearing a knockoff of a real designer who's designed something
that's a very good perspective.
Yeah.
Actually, this is very common in the fashion industry. So basically what you're saying is there are those designers who are the pioneers.
Yes.
They design something and then everybody else designs lookalikes.
Yes.
Basically.
And there is
but to us, though it's not to you, it's just a clothing at the store.
Yes.
Yeah, to you, you're just thinking I'm buying something from the store.
There's no how can knockoff.
That thing is an actual knockoff of the pioneer, the one who actually brought it into the market.
Body puffer jacket, Beaumont Clay, things like that. Kibo, no, boo, Luena.
Yes.
Is it knockoffs, guys, or
the
is
only
it trends?
reason you don't call it a knockoff is because it doesn't actually have the logo.
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't have the logo. It's exactly the same.
The quality won't be the same, whatever. But, if you're in Africa, chances are...
But is it knockoff or trends, guys?
It is.
I think if you're copying somebody's design, it's a knockoff.
Yes.
If it's not an original design, it's a knockoff.
Yeah, so Shein is known, it's infamous for that. Like, even if you're a YouTube designer.
Friend, I want to take it to every single store you can think of in our malls in SA.
Yes. Yeah, that's where you're doing the call out, where we don't recognize that that's what they do.
Yes.
They are referred.
You think you're wearing a blouse, but that blouse comes from
the way it's
somewhere.
designed, the shape, it comes from some designer.
To what Bonga's saying though, they are considered trends, right? However, the point that Ursula is saying is they are copying them to the T, right? They are copying them to the T. If something you'd consider a trend, right? A trend is a bit more general.
Yes.
Like, for example, all of us wearing shwesh.
Yes.
Shwesh is a trend. But if you copy who's that brand? It was in YTE, the one that had that shwesh design.
But then I can think of someone else that's copied a lot and their design is distinct. Marcos.
Yes, exactly.
That is
exactly.
Yes,
yeah, so knockoff, which is to Ursula's point, knockoff is you copying exactly. And Ursh is saying we don't realize that
because
we're
not exposed
something that is an exact replica of someone's original.
Yes. Like when I saw those Stella McCartney shoes, they were so unique to me. I thought I was seeing something unique. Kanti, these are knockoffs of Stella McCartney. I was just like, damn, I felt so offended. Now I don't wear them with pride. I don't wear my shoes.
For people who know out there.
Yes, But anyway, so I found that, it's just a silly reflection. But now I look at things so differently. I look at things so differently that actually, firstly, we're very limited. Secondly, Africans need to create more. We really need to create more. I like how you mentioned Maxhosa. We need to step into that space where we're creating more. Where, I'm going to now say names, where Mr. Price is wearing local designers. Because they are designers, and I don't see why they can't be given to us at a price we can afford. Why can't I wear Bonga's design? Things like that. Like, I just wish we could get into that space as Africans more and more and more. Your YDEs are trying to, because YDE is Young Designers Emporium, and they've got these, local African designers, which is great. But more of those, and more of those in our big retail stores, in our Woolies, in our, Mr. Prices, let's start putting real authentic African wear and African designers. Wongile Mang must go sketch. And let's start getting those things on the market.
This dude Uziand, I don't know if you guys know he has kettles, kitchenware.
Oh,
guys,
yes. The one with
the
patterns,
the patterns. Oh my goodness.
It's so interesting you said, because somebody wanted to send us a gift of their kitchenware brand. Yeah. So maybe we might be advertising with somebody else.
You know what I mean?
Then can I do my second reflection?
Yes,
I'm so sorry.
yes.
I know I've talked
No, it's okay.
My second reflection, and the timer is not on. My second reflection would be around reading and empowering yourself with knowledge. So I find myself in a lot of places because I don't even think I'm some kind of gender advocate of, in any shape or form. But I just find myself in spaces because I'm human, because I'm female, or, I'm, female, male, whatever, because we're assigned these things and we live in the society where these things matter. I find myself engaging in those discussions. And I've been engaging in discussions around being a woman and whatever since I was a kid. I don't remember a time where I didn't find it unfair that my brother can go wherever without guardianship and I can't, and realizing very early what it means to be a woman and the limitations it has, being a woman, the limitations being a woman has, and the pros being a woman has as well, And so in finding myself in those discussions, I've been feeling very challenged to figure out what other people, are saying. And so, I'm somebody who studied science, Koskolong. And so you find that people that, did more social sciences, history and whatever at varsity level have learned about really amazing people. Like I'm about to say the name now, bell hooks. Somebody else is like, is she only learning about bell hooks now? I really am only learning about bell hooks now. And seeing that, allow yourself to be equipped with knowledge sometimes. We have these discussions, because like the discussion we've been having a lot, a running theme with TCC has been the men's struggle as well. And for a long time, I've been very conflicted internally because it feels like a cop-out to feminism. But this Bell Hooks lady speaks of how the feminism movement is a movement for everyone. And she speaks of how men are trapped by patriarchy and the standards of patriarchy and toxic masculinity. And I realized that these discussions that we're having have been had. And so when we don't allow ourselves to engage in literature that exists, we start at zero. We start where Bell Hooks was thinking.
Ooh.
Do you understand? Ooh. Whereas if I were to read literature, and let's say Bell Hooks ended at 50, I allow my thinking to get to 80 or 100. And so when I come and I chat here on TCC, I'm pulling from it is very double in the sense that sometimes you can be pulling from a sense of knowledge, and what happens sometimes is then you're tainted.
You get stuck in their mistakes.
You get stuck in their mistakes and all of that, So there is that. So maybe not, and this happens with anybody that listens to only one pastor and doesn't diversify and listen to other teachings. But literature generally is allowing yourself to acknowledge that other people have thought and had the same challenges that you have in your mind and have, sort of taken a few 10 steps forward. Don't allow yourself to start at step 0 when you don't have to.
I hear you.
If this is a journey and there's a timeline, we don't have to start in 1976. We can literally start in 2024.
Yes.
The knowledge that is up to here. But if you allow yourself to engage in literature, finding myself in a place where I'm often doing these gender discussions, I've challenged myself to read more, around feminism, read more around masculinity, read more around, and and I think it really applies to any topic. Engage in literature. Allow yourself to learn from the greats that have already written, that have already gotten to a place, so that you can take us from there to the next place.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think often the issue is that we always the ones who have been wronged, always feel like when you give space and room to the one who did the wrong or their people, you are not acknowledging what we've been through, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So as a result, you don't welcome conversations that talk about how can we both grow.
Yes.
Because especially guys, I feel like the conversation between women and men is so important. I understand that it can be a charged conversation, but it's such an important conversation because that's how we're currently building societies, right? Men and women, and our kids need to understand that men have things that they suffer through. Women have things that they suffer through, and we each have to help each other carry those loads and those burdens. And I was actually I was introduced to that concept because my introduction to feminism, which a lot of guys tend to be, our exposure to it leaves quite a bitter taste in our mouths.
Absolutely.
And then when you go back and listen to the grandmas who were there when this thing started, and the reason, the purpose behind it, it's like now you understand, Guti, you guys are also trying to save us, right? You were trying to save us from the system that was built by our forefathers.
Yes.
Like that's where your heart was.
Yes.
You understand what I mean? Yeah.
All of us are suffering in this system.
Exactly.
The feminism system wasn't designed, and like you're saying, we always speak of it like a knife that can be used to slice vegetables can be used to kill someone. So sometimes in the name of feminism, I think there is a lot of like, I don't want to say harshness, but there is a lot of like misunderstanding. I think there is other agendas that are being pushed under the guise of feminism. But if you don't allow yourself to indulge in that, the originals who started this movement, what were they? Were they excluding men? Were they saying men at the bottom of the barrel? I don't believe that. Because the definition of feminism is, it talks about equality. It doesn't say women are better.
Yes.
And so, just finding those, but it's just that allowing yourself to engage in what was the original movement, what was being said. That being said, there is a guest who's, I remember she's doing her PhD, Busi Busisiabe. I've asked you to come before. Somebody who knows Busisiabe, please ask her to come. I know she's doing like a PhD around feminism. And she knows the different tiers and the different generations, I think, of feminism, I think it's called. And she was one day schooling me when I had a radio interview with her. And so I'd love for you to come and just school us here. You know? Yeah, it would be really nice. Yeah.
Mine, I'm going to try for it to be briefish. I think for me this week, I was having a conversation with a friend and we were talking about her just working on her portfolio and upgrading herself in order for her to get a new job. And here's the thing, she's a top performer at work, and yet she still feels like she's not worthy to leave. And I'm like, I'm looking at her and my heart is just sore, and I'm like, dude. And the thing is, she's in an environment where she works where the boss, so it's sort of like those industries where bosses know each other. Okay. So he'll literally go to other companies and say, don't hire her. Don't hire her. You understand? But it's not what's stopping her. Like for me, I was reflecting on that thing of, I was listening to a psychologist talk about how one of the reasons why we, when we become adults, especially where we are as millennials, and I've never thought of this, guys, and I don't know if you've been exposed to this, the idea that the reason why we don't try to push further and reach higher is because of childhood traumas. Like being disappointed by a parent actually makes you feel like I can't reach for something. It makes you expect life to disappoint you. I've never connected those dots, right? And hearing the way that he explained it, I was like, that does make sense, right? He's actually not a psychologist. I think he's a psychiatrist who works a lot with men. But also generally works with men and women, but he focuses a lot on men. So he was just talking about that. Uguti, it's very important for us to understand that we as human beings, our childhood traumas, the things your father told you can't do, the things your father never showed up for, your mom never showed up for, how you were shouted, how you were punished, those traumas actually tie into what you can't do, right? And it just made me reflect on things that, I get this a lot where people, like I was having a conversation with this lady, and I'm really not stroking my own horn here. I'm just trying to make a point. Like I was having this conversation with this lady, and almost everyone I have conversations with, people just assume I read a lot, right? It's just a natural assumption. And as a result, what I'm getting at is people just assume I'm that smart kid who's always reading books. I love knowledge. I love acquiring knowledge. I'm not a person who reads nje. I don't read for leisure. I know people who do. I love listening to audiobooks, but it's just the default. As a result, people would just expect that it's easy for you.
Audiobooks is reading, but yeah, anyway.
Oh, okay. There are many people who are like, it's not the same.
It's definitely reading. Guys.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who are like, for me, I consume a lot of knowledge through audiobooks.
Yeah.
Like a lot.
The point is reading. How the knowledge goes
in.
Yeah.
So it's even
listening
weird.
to a
The
book.
thing you're saying, Ash, it's even weird for me to say I've read this book when I know I listened to an audiobook.
When I'm speaking of bell hooks reading a book, I'm talking about the audio.
And I do agree with you. I do. You've consumed it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know the knowledge.
The knowledge.
Yes,
but you didn't read it.
yes. Yeah, but then the thing is, it makes people feel like, man, for Given, it's easy, man. Given can just access opportunities and explore his best. And, especially when you speak well, and that's what the conversation we were having, Uti, one would never say that's something you struggle with because you're well-spoken, you're doing well at work, you're a top performer, you're the one person they don't want to let go of. And yet when you're sitting by yourself, you're contemplating, should I actually take this risk? Of going and finding better work because she's not happy where she's at. So it really made me reflect on things that I should be pushing myself at. Given you can actually do this and reach for the sky in whatever. Yeah.
Friend, and you know what scares me when I listen to podcasts and stuff, people talking about realizing that and really pushing themselves at 40. Then in my time, I'm like, I don't have time to wait till 40. I got to push myself now.
Yes.
But at least you're there.
Yes.
But at least you're there. we're talking about people who realize at 40. You are saying I can't realize at 40. I'm realizing now.
I feel like I haven't realized. I'm saying I want to realize. I want to realize.
That's a you problem.
But yes, I hear you. Taking risks is something that's like such a highlighting theme in my life right now. Take a risk, bet on yourself, bet on yourself, you know. But it's very difficult. It's very difficult. Yeah.
That is so interesting, especially the part where you are looking at this brilliant person and they're not. Yeah, and that's why with this generation, given it's almost in relation to what you were speaking about earlier, that we need to be intentional parents. I don't think you can ever be perfect as a parent, but just having that knowledge that what you say, what you do, how you say it, and the impact it could have on your kid for a lifetime. Yeah.
Can I just say, in the same breath, you guys need to be really kind to yourselves, because the same way you're looking at the previous generation, they could have done this. Knowledge is happening exponentially. So I was going to be saying, my dad should have.
Oh, yes.
Even at the best level that you're trying, it was not that our parents and the parents before them were not doing the best of the knowledge they had at the time. It's just that there's more knowledge and we're evolving. Now there's gentle parenting. We come from an era where spare the rod, spoil the child. Now it's gentle parenting. The next thing, it could go back to spare the rod, spoil the child. We don't know how things will evolve.
I'm not 100% gentle parenting.
That time he's so gentle with his daughter.
Also, my parents at that time, my parents didn't hit when raising me or my siblings.
That scares me.
Lucky you guys.
It really always, me now I was beat.
I was also beat.
Yeah, and I hold no
too.
Grudge.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, look, that scares me now, because it makes me wonder what version of me would I have become if I had grown up in a different version in a different part of the world.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes.
Having different access to information, being influenced differently. There are some guys I look at now who will say, like, you're dating their sibling and they are telling you must cheat. What is your problem? Like, you realize that
who I'd be cheating on
is your sister. Like, that idea has been so entrenched into them. It's like you can't separate it.
Absolutely.
It really makes me afraid of what conditioning can do a number.
It's crazy.
And the weight that your parents have on you, the things your parents say, leave such a heavy weight and a heavy mark. It's undeniable. Did you catch that? Undeniable.
Yes,
it's undeniable. But because I'm thinking recently my dad said something he's never said to me. He said, "I see you with the greats, my baby." But Kilaba, and many people online can, Ursula, but when it came from my dad, not that my dad's never said it, but there was a different weight.
Yes.
It was a reminder that a parent has so much authority over your life.
Absolutely.
What they say has authority over your life. That's why people say, remember things like, my dad never told me he was proud of me. Because a million people can tell. But parents, the things parents say have so much weight.
I hear you.
Okay. So now we're going to the comments. This one, I think it has to do with the episode on confrontation. Which is better, confrontation or silence? Nonte says, please do talk about how people with high tolerance are being taken for granted. I had to burn a bridge as I saw it was moving to disrespect and entitlement.
Girl.
You sent this into the group.
Oh.
So I thought you'd want to add.
I forgot. Sometimes we said weeks before.
Yes, okay.
But yeah, I've forgotten. But yeah, I just said ooh because I felt it again. Like, yeah, man. Some people
at least there's consistency.
Or maybe
there.
One of the things that I have been sitting on a little bit is sometimes you gotta have a.
You actually spoke about this.
Yeah.
Oh, sometimes you must speak.
You must be like, hey.
It was on that you used a particular word. It's an offense.
Yeah, egregious offense. Yeah, yes, I did talk about it actually.
I was handling it that way.
Yes, yeah, because I realized you've got to have a little clear. Because if you don't, and that's something that I've always been team no, peace, loving, whatever. And yes, peace, loving. My house not clear, but
yeah, I hear you.
So you better be careful. Yeah.
And then on the same episode, Nati says, True wisdom is knowing when to use the sword and when to use the feather. Sometimes strength means taking decisive action, standing firm, and setting boundaries. Other times it's about showing compassion, patience, and gentleness. Real strength lies in recognizing which approach will lead to the best outcome in each situation. Using the feather doesn't mean one is soft. It means they are strong enough to choose a gentler path when it's needed. Just like everything in life, balance is key. Oh, I struggle with this. Hey,
no, but I love that comment. Yeah,
I loved it too.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Knowing when to clear. This is okay.
For me, I'm never like I don't, but I do like confrontation. Like I want us to deal with that thing, and understanding that with some people it takes time. They need time has been very hard because now I want to address it now and let's speak now. But some people are like, no, I need some time to think about it, to marinate, to also control my reaction, you know?
Black Newborn from the Husband's podcast, he called it himself a processor. So comparing himself to his wife, because I mean, if I compare Nessa and myself, Nessa's a processor. I'm more of, I'd like us to discuss this now. And it's the thing is, confronting an issue and talking about it is so important because otherwise you don't really have much of a relationship. Yeah. But you really don't have a relationship.
And
but
you also leave room for resentment, yes.
To harbor, exactly. But it's so important to find a balance between the processor, because often you find that you, not just in marriage, but in friendship, you're friends with someone who's more of a processor. And I don't know, some people are able to give their friends time to process. But the thing about processors is that they never come back and say, okay, sharp, I've processed.
Yes, actually.
That's my
and that
only
time
thing.
we sat with it for so
long. You know
long.
what I mean? And you don't know nothing. When undlulile lapho. And the thing is this, with the processor, the fact that you've moved on, it's like we are telela kahle. You know?
I hear you.
I wish I could remember the exact words, but it's a couple that speaks about how they've managed to reach whatever years they've managed to reach. They're an older couple, and they're just speaking about how even the language we use, we're not saying, for them, I think I remember the gist. For them, leaving was never an option. Firstly, once they decided to get married. So it was always, how do we work through this?
Yes.
What is offending you in this thing? To leave is not an option. So we need to face whatever we're going through and be careful about the language you use. So perhaps instead of saying, you annoy me when you do this, it's like, I don't like, or I would like, or I'd prefer. Yes. I wish I could find the exact one, but if I do,
I think you're talking about somebody, the statement was, we never fought each other, we always fought the problem.
It's not that one.
Oh, is it? Okay. Okay, because it sounds similar that, it's not
you
are
similar.
Annoying me. It's this situation annoys me.
And then Katlego says, your Vaughan had to say that, I hate to say this, but it's true. We don't want emotional gents. We want them to understand and interpret what we feel.
Absolutely.
I want to hear
Vaughan
more.
came to fetch us there.
Yeah, I want to hear more women's reflection of that, because I'm really curious about, like, is that what actually... Okay, first of all, I do definitely want to hear guys' perspective because they're the ones who are experiencing it, right? Like, you can see, Guti, this person is not really interested in me being vulnerable. They're interested in me being vulnerable to their convenience, right? Exactly. Which I can understand. But I'm interested, like that reflection, because I'm guessing that's a lady saying, yes, we do that. I would really like to hear more reflections on that.
Well, already, Motewa says, we women sometimes can be toxic. We want a sensitive man. Then in the long run, in an argument, we'll be telling the same man that he needs to stop acting like a woman and man up. We have a long way to go.
You know what I mean?
I think it's so true in terms of, I'm reflecting on my own biases and my experiences. And to be honest, it's true, Hure. I want a sensitive man for my benefit. I want you to be able to know what to do, when to do, how to do. But
not for his benefit.
Yeah. Now that I think
not for him
about
to express himself.
I'm okay also with, I think I'm also thinking about there's levels to sensitivity, I get.
Yes.
So here we're talking about vulnerability, but I'm trying to think, should he like be the man who's gonna cry all the time or whatever? Would I be okay with that? You know, I think I'm okay with vulnerability.
Yes.
But I'm also seeing, I want a vulnerable or sensitive man because I want them to process my thinking. It's never been about, now that I'll reflect and do better. But when every single time I've thought about it, I've said I want a thoughtful man because I want him to know, because, not because for him or for the benefit of the relationship, but more for me and you knowing my needs and when to respond and how to respond to my needs.
This is a test I used to actually do on people that I'd randomly meet at like a performance or if I'm at a wedding or whatever. Like you'd find people just randomly talking about, men, or I'm looking for a guy like this, and I'd be like, listen to what a person says, why they want a partner. And you often don't find people say things like, I really want someone to take care of. I really want someone who's going to find a safe space in me. I want someone who's going to,
I say stuff like that.
Like, don't put us all in there. No, brownie points.
You.
No, but that's a very, very important thing, right? Because it's also in like, when you have children, you imagine if you were, as a parent, if all you were to say is, so I can send them, so they can graduate and make me money. You understand? Because in as much as it is important for you to be with someone who's able to accommodate all your shortcomings and all your needs, it is equally important for you to show up for that person. So you need to have that conversation with yourself. Have I actually asked myself, am I willing to get up and take care of this person if they're sick? Am I willing to bear this person not having a job for a couple of months? You understand? Those are very important conversations to then have with yourself.
Yeah, so it's something I thought about to say. My need for thoughtfulness, sensitive, whatever, has always been for my benefit.
Yes.
Can I say that you're a very reflective person? Because if you listen to that episode, you're like, ningang fagi. If you listen to that episode.
Yeah, because I would
so you
think
went
of
back
myself,
and you reflected.
I would think of myself as a person who values a sensitive guy, and but now that I think about it, although I still value them, but I'm thinking it's always been for my benefit.
For your benefit, yes.
To say he'll be thoughtful, he'll know how to act in
to be honest, before Vaughan said it, I had never thought of it. And then after he said it, I was like, ooh, am I being fetched? I think I'm being fetched. Yeah.
Okay. And then on the episode with Lazy Magodi, Lebu the coach said, Mohau, you just touched a very important element about us losing ourselves. People always judge me and my husband for speaking, or rather making our kids speak Sesotho at home. They think we are old-fashioned and maybe we are uneducated to even make a conversation with our kids. So hey man, shame. I normally say they need to know who they are despite the schools they attend. Let the school do their job and I do mine as a parent. Thank you, Ursula, for the platform as well, Wanis.
I can't believe someone would judge you for that in South Africa.
That is weird.
That's weird.
But also, you'll be surprised. You'll be surprised. There was a lady. I was at a store, and the daughter was talking to me in English. And a little girl, I think she was like maybe 3 or 4. Like, put it there, and it was cute. I'm not even noticing that this kid is speaking in English. But me and this kid are like engaging and we're like chuckling. I can't remember. It was like sweets or something on the aisle. And then the mom goes, oh, the in-law, but you could see she was. Then I was like, yeah. She's like, we do the TV, give me a thing, TV, little internet, little YouTube.
Yeah.
Then I was like, oh, this lady is proud that her daughter doesn't really know how to speak. I think, in fact, I caught, because I noticed the mom was speaking Sotho, and then I responded to the girl in Sotho, and she didn't respond. And that's when the mom said, she doesn't know Sotho, like very proud. Yeah, and even the in-laws, they hate me for it.
I don't understand that.
Because, Mara, I said, I get YouTube. kitty TV, but you could tell that she was really proud that her daughter doesn't know how to speak. So I'm just saying you'll be sad. But I remember also looking at her, I didn't say anything, but in my heart I was like, hey, May, you've got it wrong.
Yes.
You've really
you
got it
should
wrong.
be worried that she's only speaking English.
Because she will learn English.
Obviously.
In South Africa, she will learn English. Who's going to preserve the Sotho?
Like,
one day, how Rachadi not Rachadi can't speak English, but you get what I'm saying.
Yes.
Where does the language go?
Yo, guys, I really hope, and I really hope our generation, like our age mates, are not making this thing a norm of just letting kids speak English. I get that a lot of millennials kids generally speak English to the T. But like, don't shame a child or a mom for a kid speaking a home language.
Absolutely.
And guys, do you know, like, this is ridiculous. You guys, the way in which people will travel, it's like the thing that was said by something living, the interior designer.
Distinguished
living. Yes. It's like the thing that she was saying, Guti. You will sit with someone who's from France and they'll have a French accent.
Yes. And tell you that you're well spoken.
Yes.
Remember, she was like, not you.
You imagine.
Not you telling me
with
I'm well spoken.
Thick accent. So I think it was some Portuguese, thick Portuguese accent. And I'm like, this is something we really need to think about. There's no way that you can have someone with a thick South African accent, which doesn't really exist. It's either, in fact, sometimes it's even provincial, right? So someone actually has a Limpopo accent, somewhere specific in Limpopo. Someone has a Val accent. Someone
it's so crazy, the Val thing. I get it all the time. People are like,
you're from the Val. Yes.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a South African accent, right?
But there is a general South African accent. It's
yes,
just that
I
we
agree.
know the nuances.
Yes.
Like when I hear somebody from KZN, I hear one Zulu accent.
Yes.
But when we and Bonga went to, what do they call that music? Maskandi event. And we were sitting with a guy from KZN and he was like, oh, that's Northern KZN. That's
he could
Durban.
hear the nuances.
He could hear the nuances. So in the same way, when people listen to us from outside, whether you're from Valcom or from KZN, they hear the same thing.
That's very fair. Yeah, I really hope this thing doesn't become a norm, guys. There's no way that you cannot realize someone's brilliance. Like, I remember watching a podcast of a woman who understands nuclear energy, but she had such a thick Zulu accent. And I'm like, there's no way. This woman studied, she's worked in labs, she travels the world and advises people, but just because she has a Zulu accent in when she speaks her English, when are you thinking, oh, girl, maybe, there's no way that we be, no, man.
Yeah, but that's why these conversations need to be had.
Yes.
People need to be called out for it. Like, love yourself, actually. Actually, love yourself. Love what looks like you.
Exactly.
Yeah. And sounds like you. Why we nyata?
Like, there's one thing to be, like we make fun of as a country of like soccer players. It's one thing to have an accent and actually not know how to speak the language, right? That's one thing. But to actually speak the language, like all of us can, like our politicians, they have accents, but we can understand what they're saying. Well, when they're not using actual political terms that are very complicated, but we can hear what this person is saying. There's no way that you should be discrediting a person for speaking the language properly, just happening to speak it with an accent. That doesn't make sense.
Absolutely. And I go back to loving yourself and loving what looks like you and what is you, because your uncle sounds like that.
Exactly.
Noma kanjani.
Exactly.
That's why how asilo hong hong. So why do you hate that? Why do you hate yourself? Why do you hate what you come from? Why do you hate who you are?
What looks like
you.
And then to just the final comment, I'm realizing I'm not keeping up with the time because the screenshots had an earlier time.
Oh.
So I'm like, we're good.
We're definitely not going to be a
part of that. You can add
yeah,
that
now
right
I'm like, oh,
that's the real time.
The last comment I'm going to speak on, it's our episode on not wanting to get married or marriage not being the ideal, not the ideal, but the goal for you. Given always gives the most thought-provoking perspective. I enjoy his views because I think we often make definite assumptions or conclusions, forgetting that there's always a different point of view, which can also be true. Loved the episode as per usual, and you guys are amazing. I think I needed to wrap it up with that because Given always gives such great insight, and I'm happy he's decided to get mic'd up more.
Make sure your friend group has a Given.
Yes, to bring in like different perspectives.
Yeah.
And sometimes when Given brings in a perspective, I'm like, who said I'm emotionally ready for
Like
that
I'm
perspective?
sure everyone can see your face because I always zoom
Yeah,
into
who
you.
says I'm emotionally ready for that perspective? So that was today's episode.
Yeah.
Yes.
We do need to go. Thank you so much. Today's episode of the Conversation Capital. Remember, it's the Get Ready With Me episode, so we just chat and ramble.
You actually
Feel
finished
free.
your makeup today.
Yeah, I did. That's how long this episode was. I'm quite sure it's quite a long episode.
Didn't feel long.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. For now, though, goodbye and God bless.